Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dark Phoenix Gaming, and you are watching Kaiserreich as the Netherlands. In the last episode, we continued along our slow burn through the political build-up that is the first couple of years of Kaiserreich. And a few rather interesting things happened. First of all, Romania had their elections. They also formed a bit of a faction between themselves. Serbia had their elections, rather. And they, Romania, and Greece formed a faction aimed at getting the lands they lost to Bulgaria during the Weltkrieg back. Also, we had some political coalitions form in our own country, and definitely not the Dutch version of Nazi, the black shirts, turned up and started punching the hell out of people for protesting and being communist and stuff like that. And Bulgaria, speaking of, has now had to start turning into less of an autocracy thanks to an election and some constitution reforms. So they're actually going constitutional monarchy a bit, which is interesting, as a lot of this is shit I've never seen happen. But now, this is also 1937, so it's time for us to begin advancing time and see what happens. Elections should be soon too, and once you get those out of the way, you will be able to start working on economic reforms. Because we still can't reform anymore after Black Monday, because we need the political establishment to be, well, established again before we can do that, which needs the elections. For now, we have the death of Van Gijbland Oosterhoff, leader of the ultranationalist VNH, died today in his home in Amsterdam. His last few years had seen a rapid rise in fortunes of the VNH, brought on by the economic struggles facing many in the country, fear of syndicalism, and disillusionment with democracy. However, the party he leaves behind is highly divided itself, and the young, newer members of the party, led by Cornelis Van Gilkerken, and the older, more established segment, possessing ties to the Dutch military and bureaucracy in the hands of H&A Swart. Swart has been named the new party leader, with Van Gilkerken his deputy, and the pair look set to challenge the established parties for control of The Hague in the May elections, provided the two wings can keep working together. I must be careful with them. I lose stability again. Our stability is not looking great, at only 4%. Socialists assume full control in Norway. Oh dear. After winning the elections and forcing King Haakon VIII to abdicate, the Socialist Party of Norway has today ratified a new constitution which fully turns the country into a syndicalist state France and Britain before them. Another place in the chessboard joining the syndicalist cause. The balance of power in Europe shifted again in the great game of chess between the Revolution and the Old Order, but we have yet to see how Norway itself will affect the overall state of affairs. Did they really betray King Haakon's trust so shamelessly? I mean, my god. They were his subjects. They owed him their loyalty. This is treachery. But yes, Norway are now radical socialists. I wonder where the King of Norway hangs out after he gets exiled, and because I know with France and Britain, if Germany conquers their lands, they have the possibility to restore their old monarchy to the throne. I wonder if they can do that with Norway too. Interesting to find out, but I have no idea where I'd look that up. And of course, they have joined the Commie Alliance. Which now has 3 members again. Well, I say again, I don't know any time when it didn't. Honestly surprised Poland hasn't joined that alliance, but I'm also surprised Germany hasn't invaded them yet. You know, it is what it is, but still bizarre. Invest in Brussels. So right now, doesn't look like they've tried. Like our puppet has tried for a united Netherlands yet. Marriage of Juliana. Today, Crown Princess Juliana is marrying her fiancé, the Prince Bernhard zur Lippe Besterfeld, who renamed himself to Van Lippe Besterfeld in Dutch style. The announcement alone had provoked a wave of happiness throughout the crisis-ridden Netherlands, and the ceremony certainly will do no less. The national feast will be sure to distract a bit from the current bad economic circumstances, forms a spot of hope for those in despair at the state of the country. Congratulations, Juliana. 1.5 stability and a bit of political power. Oh, nice. Our improved carrier hulls are done as well. Smoke generators. A lot of the research things that we have there for the various techs that I can add on to my ships, they're fairly quick, so I'm probably just gonna rush through those now, because they won't take that long to finish compared to a lot of other things. Speaking of, we have quite a bit of political power now. The over 150, so I should be able to do some changes or other, honestly.
Maar doe niet zo zenuwachtig en hou je eendrachtig de gevaren die we ontwaren.
Choosing a chief of staff for our army.
Geen fanatisme.
Good start, I think.
Elk die zuchten slaakt, die sticht meer kwaad. Want ons leger waakt en staat paraat. Niets is er wat meer wrijft of wringt. Het kokkie in de keuken zingt.
This fellow is going to be who we go for, I think. Gert Steringa. Since all of these school defense people are exactly the same, I'll just pick the one whose name I can pronounce reasonably well. Give us more max entrenchment, better construction speed for land and coastal forts, and anti-aircraft emplacements. That should be helpful in holding off enemies from taking up our glorious homeland, which is of course the main goal of our army, right? Not being conquered. Germany? Why are you suddenly moving troops? Oh wait, I know what's up. At least I suspect I might. It's volunteers that they're sending to their colony in East Asia, isn't it? To help them fight off the Indo-Chinese Union. The communist rebellion going on down here. That's what's going on. I know it. And as predicted last time, Bulgaria has now at war declared on them. The Fourth Balkan War. A country was reborn in the Balkans after the Weltkrieg. Greater Bulgaria, the titan of the peninsula, uniting all Bulgarian lands and beyond. This kingdom for all Bulgarians was born with bloodshed and war, though, defeating Serbia, Greece, and Romania in the Weltkrieg, a move that these three nations are still bitter about today. This tension led to the formation of the Belgrade Pact, and this alliance of Balkan states has now declared war on the Tsardom, throwing the regime into conflict yet again. Will Ferdinand I save his nation from this overwhelming force, or will his kingdom be divided once more? Man, what is it with the Balkans and war all the time? Seriously. But yeah, well, it will be interesting to see how this goes. I think it is quite likely to end in a Bulgarian defeat. As I said, I have never once seen them actually win. And sometimes the Ottomans even jump in and decide to start shit with Bulgaria. That's not at all uncommon. Standoff in America. President Floyd Olson experienced a major blow today, as a large number of governors declared his government illegitimate, citing the recent passing of a compromise bill intended to end a devastating national strike as evidence of collusion with syndicalist leader Jack Reed, and have thrown their support behind the leader of the America First Party, Huey Long. They have stopped short of seceding from the Union, but declared that the federal government holds no authority within their state borders. In response, President Floyd Olson has given the governors 30 days to stand down, an order none of them appear interested in obeying, making it all but certain that the United States will descend into civil war for the second time in less than a century. Well, that's not good. American Union State. And it looks pretty likely that because of the focus decision path America took, they went down the route that let them avoid the CSA rising up. Because while America And just right there, North Carolina joined the Union State again. That research option for light tanks is done, so I'll get better light tanks. As I was saying, the thing with the American Civil War as it exists in the current version of Kaiserreich, this used to be different, but from what I remember in the devlogs, it was modified because this made things too easy. The long and short of it... The long and short of it is that it's possible for the US to prevent the Civil War from being as bad as it can be, but they can only prevent the Union State or the CSA from rising up. They can't prevent both. And they can prevent another faction that tends to pop up in that region from coming about. It depends on how things go, but it's possible to make it just a one-on-one civil war if you play your cards right. Let's see. Mountain infantry and those artillery guns have been added. Our special stormtrooper regiments are now available for use. And right here, study defense plans. Bonuses for Grand Battle Plan is sort of making me lean towards the battle plan as how we will go in terms of our land doctrine, and I think that is indeed what we will pick. However, first I need the new anti-tank guns, mobilization preparation, so we can mobilize faster and more. I like that. Anti-aircraft guns first. We cannot hope to match the superpowers in terms of aerial capabilities. We must invest in a network of defensive gun emplacements and flak towers. It will add anti-air guns in Holland and North Brabant. 2 in each, to be precise. So we'll take those 2 divisions and add them to my existing army. We now have a total army strength of 10 divisions. We need to start producing support equipment now, though, because training is burning that down a little. Onder de mensen, hun blij gezicht te zien, doet je toch goed. Vervul zo nu en dan hun liefste wensen. Het spreekwoord zegt wie goed doet, goed ontmoet. We have 2 more military factories that'll get produced soon. Montclair has declared war on Tibet. Have fun with that. It's in Asia, so we don't really care about that, really. Mongolia has declared war on Montclair. Let's see here. I remember back in the old versions, Mongolia could form an alliance with Tibet, but that is demonstrably not what has happened here. Now, one of our divisions has finished and is ready for deployment. In fact, I'll deploy a second one as well. We're now up to 12 division strength. Military revolt in Paraguay. The situation in the South American nation of Paraguay has reached a fever pitch as the government of Jose Felix Estigarribia has finally collapsed in the wake of failed policy in programs. Politically charged officers across the nation led their respective barracks in revolts against both the administration and their syndicalist rivals, that swiftly managed to seize the presidential palace in Asuncion, ending serious hostilities. The nation now rests under the iron grip of General Higinio Moringio Martinez and his troops, who are eager to, as they see it, restore Paraguay's lost glory and crush all of its enemies, both domestically and beyond the nation's borders. Great, more coups. Just what we need, eh? More bloody coups. And as predicted, the US is now in a second civil war. Because why not? Everyone else is having a civil war. Why shouldn't they? To those not in the know, it might seem like the crisis in the United States came out of nowhere. But experts agree that this was a civil war years in the making. Since the collapse of the New York Stock Exchange in 1925, the economy of the United States has been sluggish and mired in deep recession. Now the United States has collapsed into an all-out civil war between the supporters of the federal government and the right-wing American Union state. Volunteers are pouring in from around the world to support one faction or another, some characterizing the bitter ideological conflict as simply part of a wider global clash of ideals. The destiny of America is at stake. Liberia, who were an American puppet, have instantly peaced out with the Union state. Yeah, that might be the case, but this civil war is a good deal smaller than it usually is. In most cases, you get the Union State and the CSA at a minimum. If the AI makes really stupid decisions, you get the Union States, the CSA, and the Pacific States of America, which generally means the federal government will never win. If it's just the Union State and the CSA, they have a chance. But in the multi-pronged civil war that typically erupts, the most common winner is the CSA, that being the Confederate States of America. Not the historical CSA, by the way. We'll see how this goes. It'll be interesting to follow, but I'm not going to send them anything. We're just going to be observers. Bust out the popcorn and watch America burn. The past few months, we're on to the event about social unrest in the Netherlands, by the way. The past few months have seen the growth of violent confrontations between the paramilitary bands of both the left and the right. Street fights an almost daily occurrence in the larger cities. Strikes are commonplace, with either the police or the Landwacht's black shirts breaking the strikers' pickets. The police have failed to keep order, with the army often having to offer support. But this has only served to increase dissent and further civil disobedience. If the situation continues to escalate, the elections in May look set to be the most contentious in living memory. So the elections in May, interesting. Only 2 months to go then. Bloody thugs. Do we lose 5 stability? We're constantly gaining stability only to lose it, and be slightly up a bit, but not by much. Smoke generators is done, so we'll have passive sonar next. The fall of some random city in China that we don't care about. Hooray. Watch me not care.
En bij het Lido zijn de blinden voor het raam vandaan. Dan gaan we kijken naar het sprookje, lieve schat. Zo warm in arm, jij en ik, lachende naar alle kanten.
Mechanical computing is done.
Omdat het licht weer brandt.
And bearing that in mind, I'm next going to finally pick my land doctrine, which, as I've been heavily hinting at for a while now, we're going with Grand Battle Plan because I find the planning bonuses to be just the most insanely useful thing to have in a lot of ways. Plus, because I don't really understand what I don't really get superior firepower all that well. I'll go for the one that I'm familiar with. Of all the doctrines, superior firepower is the one I am the most clueless about. Mobile warfare, grand battle plan, and mass assault, they at least make sense on the surface, so I can make reasonable use out of them. So we'll go with trench warfare. Faster entrenchment speed and max entrenchment. Then we can go down from there and start getting some better stuff as we go. This is really just to get us started. Trench warfare.
Maar zo slim kan het niet zijn en zo fel is geen pijn of genezing is er voor gezien. Hier een hart dat verbreekt daar de
Panama has joined the Entente.
dat juist passeren. Staar je daarop niet blind, steek je kop in de wind.
Panama Canal crisis.
Om het vlot te keren.
Interesting. Let's see here. Finished in 1914, the Panama Canal is one of the most important trade passageways on the American continent. Controlled by the United States until now, the outbreak of the Second American Civil War, the federal government was forced to withdraw the canal's marine forces, leaving it open to invasion, and to little surprise, Panamanian troops launched an operation to take back such a valuable area. This move, however, was opposed by Canada, which presented to them an ultimatum. Panama's sovereignty over the canal would be recognized, but the country must agree to a military alliance or face invasion. In the face of Canadian pressure, the small Latin American nation has backed down, defusing the crisis. The balance of power is at stake, yeah. And once the Civil War is finally resolved, you can bet your bottom dollar America is not going to like that. I'm not sure if they'll get a claim on the canal as a result, but once the Civil War resolves, you know America is going to try to reassert their control there. That is how it always goes. And we'll see if that ends up leading to war between America and Canada as a result. Likely not. That would be an absurdly petty thing to go to war over. But we'll see. My AA gun focus is done now. So now on to the one about anti-tank guns. If we are to hold out against a superior foe, we need weapons capable of penetrating even the mightiest of panzers. We must invest into anti-tank weaponry and its research. And that will take me 42 days to finish. So, slightly over a month. We'll have that, and then I can go down the route that I really want to. In the meantime, syndicalism spreads to the Philippines. Having just achieved independence from the United States, the Philippines face today perhaps one of the most serious challenges any new country could face. Inspired by the combined syndicates of America, which don't actually exist as a rebelling faction and are just a political party within America, I should remind everybody, and the Bartia Commune, disgruntled army officers marched on Manila to support rebelling peasants and workers. It seems the army's support for syndicalism was more widespread than expected, as the army rapidly declared support for the syndicalist movement. Now left with no army outside of a few loyalist divisions, and not wanting to see the archipelago descend into another bloody civil war, the government signed power over to the syndicalist movement's leader. Even in Asia, liberalism isn't safe. Cindy Philippines. That's something you don't see every day. Literally. Usually you see how it was only a handful of army units that went Cindy, then the rest helped put them down, and the Philippines stay democratic. I very rarely see them turn syndicalist, though it does happen. The Gunshi clique civil war is over. Hawaii joined the co-prosperity sphere. Yes, Hawaii declares independence as part of the American Civil War. I almost forgot about that happening because it's always such an afterthought. But, in this case, Hawaii allied with the Japanese, which is going to make America getting Hawaii back after their Civil War is over a little bit complicated. Just because they will have to go to war with Japan in order to achieve that. The Zwolle Massacre, a socialist rally outside Zwolle, organized by local council communists, ended in tragedy as one of the strikers threw a bomb into the midst of the police, who were trying to disperse the crowds. 4 policemen died, and the police immediately returned fire on the crowd, killing 24 strikers. At dawn the next morning, the police, openly backed up by the local chapter of the Landwacht, arrested local socialist leaders en masse, including the nephew of Henk Sneevelet, founder and leader of the RSAP. These actions have elicited further protests throughout the country, and even the VDB is calling on Prime Minister Kolan to publicly condemn what they refer to as illegal detentions. See. So either the police did well in rounding them up, or these people are innocent and must be released. Well, here's the thing. Someone in this crowd threw bombs at the police. That kind of action, from what was a simple protest, would likely be considered terrorism in most societies, treated accordingly. So, rounding up people who were in close proximity to someone acting in that manner is really just us taking precautions against further issues of that nature. If they really are innocent, I'm sure they'll be found as such and released in no time. So calm your tits. But we now have no stability. Lovely.
Hoe goed ook bedoeld, het is hem als voelt hij het branden.
It is May. Elections incoming. The Second Internationale. The first Syndicalist Internationale, held in Paris, dealt with spreading the ideology overseas, supporting syndicalist movements and strengthening the ties between existing nations. And thanks to the gathering success, the Second Internationale has been called to be held in London. Representatives from the entire world were greeted by a British artillery salute, Scottish bagpipe chorus, and an overall warm reception. As Europe rolls closer and closer to war, military and economic cooperation between the syndicalists is expected to be the primary topic of discussion, and France and Britain will once again call the shots on the Internationale's policy. Very interesting. Conscription crisis in Quebec. French-speaking Canadians have long opposed conscription, viewing the idea of fighting wars on behalf of the British as offensive. Now that the Canadian government has enacted full conscription in the country, the response across the French-speaking provinces of Quebec has been swift. French Canadians have taken to the streets in massive, crippling protests. It's a reenactment of the conscription crisis of 1917, although this time it seems French Canadians have lost their patience. Again and again we are called upon to shed French blood on behalf of English wars. Quebec Premier Maurice Duplessis told an angry crowd in Quebec City. We say no and they tell us we must. Quebec will never be free of English tyranny so long as it is the lapdog to English politicians. Yes, it seems French and English cannot get along, even in the same country. Fun times indeed. I'm sure they enjoy this tremendously. The Austrian Empire has declared war on Hungary. Okay. Well.
Geen visser zal verdrinken, hij wordt nou gevirendeeld op onze onbewaakte overwegen. Waar eens het lied
On that bombshell,
woont straks de orang-pendek en bedrijft daar politiek. Waar eens de veerboot stampte naar Enkhuizen.
I think we're going to end it here. So, this has been Dark Phoenix Gaming, and you have been watching Kaiserreich as the Netherlands. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to see more like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time, when we find out what the hell is going on with the Austrians, and why they once again cannot seem to keep their shit together. See you then, folks. See you then.